I don't even.
What's going on, guys? We're back with another episode of What the
Chill
Podcast.
podcast. I still got a little bit.
Hey, we still got it, man. To the viewers, we're sorry we've been ghosts for so long. We had a couple of guests that kind of backed out last minute that kind of threw us off. And to be quite frank, Ed and I have been pretty busy making sure we're taking care of business. So
To
we
say the least.
apologize. We think you're definitely going to enjoy this podcast. This is one that has been in the plans for a while and got pushed up and back and all kinds of things. So we apologize. But I'm pretty excited. Ed, do you actually know anything about this guest?
No, this is gonna be a good one because
All
I
right.
don't know. Because sometimes I actually don't like to know because that makes a little bit more genuine questions and good
No,
conversation.
no, 100%. So interestingly enough about our guest tonight, I first came across her on one of my late night excursions where I couldn't sleep. I came across her page. I did the little adoption um, paperwork that she has for her rescue. Sent her a whole bunch of message. Didn't end up getting a turtle. Still haven't gotten a turtle, but I am approved applicant. And then, ironically, she's in one of the Florida turtle groups, and she posts a lot. And so I was like, man, we have to get her on this podcast. Like, turtle rescues are important,
Yeah.
especially here in Florida. And she's pretty local to me. I mean, 2 hours I would consider as local. Um,
Okay. So,
so,
man, it's so weird, man. Not being out, feeling like a fish out of water compared to you guys now. Not in Florida.
hey, what was the weather in Ohio today?
Dude, it goes from like 60 to like back down to like 30 and 20, and it's all over the place. And this is pretty much how I known it. But I mean, you know, we were getting that, a couple feet of snow, and we actually got into negative 20, I think it was at one point, when I was working midnights at the zoo. So yeah, it's it's slowly climbing a little bit slower and slower, but I see all the people down in Florida posting, all their memes about, 40, 50-degree weather and all this stuff. I'm like, guys,
40,
come on,
50, bro. I had like 87, 89 this week.
man. Oh, dude, I feel.
Maybe even 90s.
And
All right,
the crazy thing is, I don't miss it.
I did. I'm not a winter guy. All right,
Cool.
without further ado, let's go ahead and add her to the stream. Boom. You're on live.
What's happening?
Hi.
How you doing, Kim?
Good.
So,
How about you?
we're good. We're good. I didn't want to divulge too much. I'm going to let you give the introduction for yourself today. So, can you go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yep. I'm Kim, and I am the VP of Central Florida Wildlife and Turtle Rescue USA. I handle all of the owner surrenders and adoptions, and also adoptions of native wildlife that's been rehabbed that is no longer able to be re-released into the wild. There are two divisions to our rescue. Amanda Ebenhack is my partner. She's the director. She's the one who started the rescue. She handles all of the rehabbing for the turtles and tortoises. Pretty much anything oozing goes to her because I can't handle that. One of my favorite stories is when I was first helping her out and started with her. I went over to her house, and she had asked me if I could help change a bandage on a sulcata tortoise that had gotten rammed by a larger male sulcata, and her whole side was opened up. So I said, sure, no problem, I can help. So we unwrapped the bandage, and I'm holding her under the water, and all of a sudden her lung falls out into my hand. And I looked at my husband, and I was like, there's a lung in my hand. I think I'm going to pass out. And Amanda's like, oh, we just put that back in there, just pack it back up and rewrap and move on. I was like, there's blood on my hands, like legit blood on my hands. So I said I would take on all of the surrenders and adoptions if she does all of that. So that's how we have our arrangement.
So you mentioned that you guys handle rehabbing and rescues of native wildlife. Like, what's the extremes that you guys have handled? Obviously, turtles and tortoises, but like, what's some other things that people might not consider that you guys have gotten?
We don't really turn down any reptiles. So we've gotten snakes before, lizards. Amanda, before she started getting more and more like the gopher tortoises and the box turtles, she actually did some deer rehabbing. She does some, she used to do some other mammal stuff. You know, there's a third person that helps Amanda with rehabbing. The turtles and tortoises, her name's Rosina. She also does a lot with like raccoon rehabbing, possums. She also volunteers with a lot of like dog and cat rescues too.
Any birds?
Not too much, no.
Okay.
Huh.
So go ahead, Ed.
No, so how long you guys been established?
She started the rescue, I think, about 18 years ago.
Oh wow.
And I've been with her 14 years.
Oh wow. So long. What sparked, the whole thing about getting started? Because I know a lot of people have that kind of ambition to, go along the lines of that, whether it's volunteer or work or even start something themselves. We've had a lot of people, kind of in the same avenue. What kind of sparked that?
Just a passion for it. Usually for us, I know for me personally, it was, I had, the basic red ear sliders as kids, growing up. And then I got my first sulcata back in 2000, and I was looking to adopt more. I initially paid for him, not realizing that there's rescues out there. So as I started researching more, because I wanted to adopt a second one, I started finding more and more rescues. And then I met Amanda on one of the boards, and then we just hit it off. She already had the rescue slowly starting on the rehabbing side, and I took ownership of the surrenders and the adoptions.
Oh wow.
One thing I'm curious about is like what is kind of the process on how you get these surrenders? Is it as simple as the email, they drop it off at your doorstep, or like how does that whole process go from I don't want my turtle tortoise to now you have them?
Yep. So usually they'll contact us through the website, turtlerescueusa.com. There's like a little form on there that they'll fill out. It comes over to us. I'll read, see where, they are, what they've got, and then I'll reach out to them, find out a little bit more like how big, what species they have. And then I'll send them an owner surrender form, and we'll set like an appointment, and sometimes they'll come to because I also have a full-time job, and other times they'll come to our house and drop off.
Do you get surrenders? I know you mentioned before we started a surrender from Tennessee, but how often are your surrenders outside of Florida?
I would say probably like we've only had maybe 6 come from out of state. I had a redfoot from New Jersey. I had a diamondback from Tennessee. I've had a couple of sulcatas from the northern states, and usually those they're pretty jacked up. Sorry to say that, but
So if they're like, you're talking about like species that can get fairly large, sulcatas and tortoises and diamondbacks. Do you now, if they're surrendered, whether they're in a health condition or just in general, how often? I mean, you have to arrange transportation like by driving, so you don't risk, the shipping of, overnight. Like, how does the arrangement usually work? Does it have to be a drop off?
Yes. Yep. So I always make because we are a nonprofit, so we don't want to have a lot of our funds go into transportation or shipping costs for people surrendering. We always make it on the owners for them to get the animals to us.
Gotcha.
So the one from New Jersey, that one was okay. That one did get shipped, but Two of them have gotten driven down. The Tennessee was another one that was shipped. Or sometimes if I can find transporters that'll do it, no cost from like state to state, we'll arrange certain things. Just have people meet along the interstate.
Now, the lady you mentioned that started did she start it like on her own property and it's grown since then, or do you guys have your own location now, or?
No, we both run it out of our homes.
Okay.
But we're both on, I think she's on 6 acres and I'm on 5 acres.
Okay. So yeah, that works. Now, do you have just a bunch of like setups like outside, whether it's barns or, you know, overpass, like sheds? Like, how do you guys usually function as far as like ones that need, you know, a little bit more temperature acclimated?
Yep. So we do have like heated sheds. Sometimes we'll start them off in the house, and that's a pain sometimes because then they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. We do have like outside enclosures.
Yeah. Now, do you guys try to make it as? How do you guys actually get feed and stuff like that? Do you actually work with like local produce places and markets and stuff like that also, like donations?
We used to before that, like years ago, it wasn't a problem. But then when everybody started getting so Sue happy, a lot of like the grocery stores and the produce farms stopped giving us like the more discarded, like the day old stuff, because they didn't want to have the liability of us coming back and saying, oh, you know, you made my animals sick from this lettuce that we gave you.
No, that's sad too, though.
Yeah. So a lot of it, you know, I get a lot of my stuff from Sam's. I think she gets a lot of hers from either Sam's or like they have a lot of, because she's in Okeechobee, so they have a lot more farming places out there.
Okay, Okeechobee. Yeah, I wasn't too far from there. I was actually, before I moved, I was in Vero Beach.
Oh, okay. Yep, she's located in Okeechobee, and I'm located in Waimama.
There's plenty of area out there. Go west, and until you can't go west no more.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm surprised I never heard of you guys too being down there.
Yeah.
How many people do you actually have? Do you have people like within your organization throughout the state, or is it just like you guys manning the fort, or do you have like other people that like volunteers to be able to help out, like if it's, you know, more south or more north, and you know, you kind of designate little regions?
Whoa, hold on.
You froze on camera.
I think that blinded by the light.
All right, we got you back. You are back.
You're back.
Hey, you froze like this too.
So there's 3 again.
No, that's how you were frozen though.
So there's 3 of us. So Rosina, she does a lot of transporting as well as some of the rehabbing with Amanda. She's located in Orlando. Otherwise, a lot of people will, if they find like a turtle that's been hit by a car, a lot of the times they'll drive it to her in Okeechobee.
You guys have local vets,
and then we also have a collaboration. Yes. Yep. And then we also have a collaboration too with Swamp Girl Adventures, Reptile Rehabilitation. Kim, her name's Kim as well too. So she helps out too, and we've all 4 of us work pretty well together.
Awesome. Do you guys now this is kind of probably touching on a more recent topic. Are you guys being stipulated to rescues and take-ins of what you're allowed now with, you know, some of the laws coming down the pipeline with Florida, and whether it's iguanas or tegus or anything like that, or snakes? Or is there anything that, you know, you have to watch it where you're allowed to kind of keep?
We are allowed because we do have our license for it. And also on my class 3 license, I've got the red ear sliders. So we're all kind of covered through the rescue. As long as we work in collaboration with FWC, they're pretty lenient. We just keep them updated as to, we took this in, this is what's happening, this is where it's going. So I just did in February, I just did a 40 box turtle rescue that I collaborated with on FWC. So they were very cool. I didn't need to worry about having, anything special. There was no investigation as long as I kept, 5 left this week. I've got homes lined up for this. 20 of them were in rehab for shell fungus. So as long as I kept them up to date, they were very cool.
Gotcha. Now, what kind of classifies you as a rehab? Like, other than like certain kind of trainings that you guys got to go through and certifications, like how does that actually function and work? Like, once you want to do what you want and what you have to do in a rehabilitation aspect.
I think it all depends on how far you want to go, how far your training experience is. I believe Amanda had worked with several vets. I don't know how many hours, like she put in. She handled on getting all of the licenses, and then wear add-ons underneath her license.
Gotcha. So pretty much like once you have that, it's an umbrella effect where you're covered and everyone underneath it's covered.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Huh. So how many, as far as like you said with turtle wise, like what kind of other turtles do you usually get?
For rehabbing or for surrenders?
Both.
Oh, okay. We get all kinds. So the common ones that usually get hit by the cars in Florida are your Florida red bellies and your peninsula cooters. And then, of course, your gopher tortoises. But fairly recently, we have been getting quite a few sulcatas that have been hit by cars from them escaping or dumped pets. There's a lot of dumped sulcatas.
That's so crazy. I see a lot of postings about people losing, monster 40, 50 plus, pound tortoises, and somehow, some way, people find it, and it's like, do you have a fence around your yard, or?
I know.
They can only get so far so fast.
And, it's great that people are posting them. Oh, I lost my tortoise or I found one, to try to make sure you find the rightful owner. But at the same time, it's not, because, FWC is watching those pages and they're like, oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. So it's only a matter of time before, unfortunately, sulcatas are on the chopping block. Yeah. I personally feel that.
Do you, as far as your guys' regulations or what your protocol is, if it does or doesn't, if it comes into you, whether it's surrendered, rehab, are you guys on your end try to like chip them or try to, make sure that you can have some kind of form of identification for that animal once it's in your care, wherever it goes, or however you guys take care of it?
Not chipping so much. I believe Swamp Girl has recently started doing some pit tags to see how it was working in with wild turtles that are being released. So she's experimenting with that. But as far as for my surrenders, they all get a profile in a database that my husband had created. And I get pictures of top, side, shell, plasterin, legs, if I can get them to stick their head out, and create a profile, and the profile is linked to whoever adopts them.
So pretty much what Cody was talking about, adopting. Now, how does the actually adoption process work for people that, because everyone gets iffy and all that stuff, when it comes to adoption and what investing. Now, how does that work for you guys? Like, other than creating that profile, you guys try to take that extra step and make it as personable as possible, and up to par as far as people wanting to be involved with that animal. Is that kind of what you guys try to mainly do?
For the surrenders, I always tell the previous owners that I will pass along the information to the adopters if the adopters should want to reach out, but it's not necessary. I don't require that. It's pretty much once you surrender, that's it.
Gotcha.
Can you
And then for the adoption side, there is an application that they fill out. I kind of research, see like where they live, make sure, their house matches up with the address. I request pictures of the enclosures. I go through all of that. And then once they're approved, they can pick up usually from my house. I'll have them pick up from my house. And at the time of pickup, they also sign an adoption agreement basically saying that if they no longer want the pet, it's to come back to us. And I also get a picture of their driver's license too, so I can match up and see what's on their driver's license address versus what's on the application.
Now, I had a question about, do you have, I think we touched upon it when before we got live, but what are some of the most encouraging stories from, where they were to where they are now, and, whether they found a home or whether they're still with you? What are some of the things that almost keep you going? Because I'm sure those are the stories and some of the things that, keep you guys doing what you love and why you're even doing it in the first place.
Yep. So I also have some pictures. I put like a small presentation together. So I did include some pictures of some enclosures that came with some surrendered pets, especially box turtles. So that's, some of that's in there. Fortunately, I haven't not been able to find a home for something. I take that back. I had to recently stop taking aquatic turtles because it's getting harder for me to find homes for them. People with ponds or outside. And it's amazing. Like you'll get like a 10-inch peninsula cooter and it'll come in like a 20-gallon long. And, they can't turn in there. So that's always fun because now I have to, like I was saying, with the Diamondback, now I have to see it can't swim. So now it has to stay longer till I build up those leg muscles and then, find them a home.
Gotcha.
So the ones that I don't take in anymore, I'll refer to FWC's got an amnesty program, which is their own adoption program. And I'll refer people to them as well.
Interesting. I didn't know FWC actually had their own adoption program also.
Yep. And it's kind of the same thing too. You go, you fill out like an application, you'll be approved. And once you're approved of them, you're approved for however long. And they're a little less strict than I am. So you don't have to worry about sending in like pictures of enclosures each time. They have amnesty days where people surrender in the morning and then they do adoptions in the afternoon to pre-approved people. We've volunteered for those as well. We've done a couple of those.
One thing I was curious about was you mentioned peninsula cooters and Florida red bellies, being the common ones that you have to rehab. But can you kind of give us an idea of the different species you've gotten in terms of surrenders?
Yep. So surrenders, we've gotten redfoots. Sulcatas are our number one tortoise that surrendered. This year has been box turtles. I'm very surprised by how many box turtles we've gotten surrendered this year.
Is that without the 40 lot? It was still a lot of box turtles, or with that as well?
With that as well. So I think I'm up to like 45 box turtles this year so far, and we're only in March.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
And those are those aren't like.
What were you saying, Ed?
No, were those all pets or people picking up from, finding on the road or something like that?
One of them was a Florida box turtle that had.
Oh, you froze.
Gotten hit by a car, was unable to be re-released. So one of those was in that, but all the other ones were pets.
Wow. So do you think at least now, because that's the topic we're on with box turtles, what have you found? Is there a common trend that you've been finding that why box turtles? Is it, I know most people don't know, I know Cody, is fond of the box turtles now, and some of the things that they need that most people don't know, that they're semi-aquatic and stuff like that. You relate it to improper care or just not knowing? Like, what has been the biggest issue with the surrender of the box turtles?
Sulcatas, it's because they've gotten too big. They couldn't take them in and out. They didn't want to deal with the heated shed. I actually had one lady, her sulcata ate the grass in her yard, so she wanted to surrender it.
What about the
Okay.
box turtles?
The box turtles, the people were moving, couldn't take them with them. Kids lost interest in them. We get a lot of kids lost interest.
Yeah, and I've found that trend to be. I've had a lot of people, personally through my friends, and them knowing me and asking me, I want to get something for my kid and this and that. And next thing you know, I said, I set them up, and next thing you know, they're like, they don't want to take care of it. And I'm like, look, I told you from the beginning, it's an investment. It takes time, and there's a lot involved with it, especially when you're talking about, the aquatic, so it takes a lot of time. People don't realize that. They think, you can just get a little dinky little turtle and, they get big fast.
Yeah. Yes, they do. They do. I've also noticed too, like the weird thing is during I say usually about September until February, March, the surrenders seem to slow down and then they pick right back up come springtime. And I don't understand why. Like I would think it would be the other. More surrenders during wintertime, this way you don't have to worry about heat bringing them in.
Oop. I think you froze again. Let's see.
Inside.
All right, you're back.
I lost you guys there for a second. I don't know.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about is like, what is the? Oh. All right, you're back. All right.
Okay.
What is the? I don't know. Strangest turtle that you've gotten?
Keeps freezing. At least it's a better freezing, froze screenshot,
Yeah. Last time it was like.
Oh man. I'm back. I missed what
Oh,
you
you're
guys
good.
said. Okay.
What is like the strangest turtle that you guys have gotten? Like, where did they get this from? Type deal. Oh,
Or
Snapper?
Sam. Either Sam or the snapper.
What snapper?
Alligator snapper.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the alligator. The alligator snapper I would have to go with.
an alligator sniper. So how did that happen?
That one was the guy had this alligator snapper, I think, for like 30 years. Her name's Allie. She's at a friend of mine adopted her. She would just lived in like a 300-gallon stock tank. She was 80 pounds, and the guy was really old and couldn't take care of her anymore and needed to surrender her. So now the water was lucky, and we were trying to figure out, well, who was going to be the lucky one to go in and figure out which one was her head and which one was her end to get her out of the tub and drain the tub and load her up. Oh, and she had a dog house too, which was very weird.
Did
So I
she
don't
use
think
the
she
dog?
would ever go into the doghouse. We took the with tortoises. No,
No,
Yeah.
now when you're talking about alligator
sorry, my
snapper,
husband's trying to fix.
Oh, you're fine.
now within Florida, I know you're not allowed. You need to go through all kinds of special permits for the alligator snapper turtle. Did he have to pretty much? He had to surrender to begin with, 'cause,
Correct.
regardless of whether he could care for it or not, unless he had the right permits. So I mean, obviously, you guys, qualify for that. But is that one thing at first you had to like look into? Like, hey, look, are you aware that you've had this thing for this many years and it's technically, not legal?
Yes. So I'm glad you had brought that up too, because this one was years ago. So so that one was an investigation by FWC. They actually did go out, interview the guy. And my friend that was adopting the tortoise did have to go through all of the stuff to get his permit. However, though, because the alligator snapper did have some shell fungus, had some eye cloudiness in her eyes, she was with us for a couple of months as we got her better. And then once his permit, it actually just timed out right. Once his permit was ready, she was actually ready to be moved out and adopted out.
Oh, wow.
When-
Yeah,
She
that's.
was-
I mean, that's. I'm
she wasn't
surprised.
She wasn't your typical alligator snapper. Like, she is very mellow. You could, not that I would recommend, people to do this, but you could actually like stroke and rub down her back. She didn't raise up. She never snapped. You could, because when we try to lift her up to see, like, get her eyes and stuff, we'd put a stick in there. She never even tried to bite the stick. She was very laid back for a snapper, which I was very surprised.
So so obviously that probably tends to have to go with what was she being fed? What kind of stuff was she being fed?
I'm sorry, say that again. I lost you there.
What kind of stuff was she being fed?
How often?
No, what kind of stuff was?
Oh, we
was she
did
being
like
fed?
frozen fish. She was actually being fed a lot of pellets by the previous guy. I don't know why these old timers do cat food too. Sorry, old timers, if anybody's listening. Cat food is a big thing too with older people. And then we were giving her like raw frozen shrimp, different kinds of fish. We threw in like live goldfish, some guppies in there.
So was she like pretty obese, being in that small little spot?
Her little worm in her mouth would go.
So, because I know we had one of our buddies is big, and one of our buddies is big in the alligator snappers, and he was talking about some of the crazy things in their diet you wouldn't realize, and how easily they can also get obese and and stuff like that. Was she pretty? I mean, obviously 80 pounds. She's pretty heavy, and but she also, you said it was like 30 years, so she was pretty old up there. So was she more so just big from size and age, or big because of obese?
No, she actually wasn't. She was pretty fit. She was just that was just her size. She's a big girl, big 80-pound girl.
Now, did you guys, since it was such a off the wall thing and such a large animal, alligator snapper turtles, did you have any intuition on reaching out to any like the preserves or zoos or anything like that might want her for like educational use, or did she go to that kind of use?
No, I haven't. I know like sometimes they want, like the native species, and when we do get them, we'll sometimes check with preserves, nature parks first to see if they want them. But I didn't know, as far as the permits for them. So I just found, like a local, my friend adopted her. So
Yeah. Now, have you ever had any
but I do have,
interest?
like
Go ahead.
No, because I don't try not to ship too much out of state, only because I don't feel like having to worry about packaging up. Did it get there? Boxing, dropping it off at FedEx. I always, try to get people to pick up from me.
But if they're willing,
and I have had, and I have had somebody from Alabama adopted 2 sulcatas for me. I met them a couple years ago at the Daytona Reptile Show. That saved them some drive time. And then I had somebody in Georgia that's adopted a sulcata from me as well.
Interesting. Y'all ever gotten a mata surrendered?
No, I haven't gotten one of those.
If you do, call me.
Cody, you're all about
pretty
that
crazy. I know, right?
What'd you say, Ed?
All about that.
My husband calls them the turtles.
Hey, it's something about matas, man. I've been this close to buy one, but I don't even care about the size. They're just cool turtles, man. I don't know. I think part of my problem is that most of them are imported, and so I don't really want to like spend money on an animal I don't know its health, if that makes sense. But
now, do you guys go to a lot of events? Do you try to do a lot of events and to like raise awareness as far as like the what you had to offer, like your services?
Yep. We do the Repticon Tampa shows. Well, actually, we haven't since COVID because it's a little weird how they're doing the reptile shows now. But yep, we usually set up a rescue table at the Repticon shows. Just through some Facebook pages, we do awareness. Sometimes where our Turtle Club meets over in Clearwater, they'll do certain events there. So we've done events there before. And we've done like Great American Teach-ins.
How far from Clearwater are you?
I'm trying to think of. I think we're about an hour from Clearwater, maybe an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the Turtle Club meets. They meet over in Clearwater at Mexican Lake.
The reason I asked
Park,
is my mom literally
is what it's called.
just moved from Clearwater this past week. And so I know to get to her house, it was about 3 hours and 5 minutes or so from me. But that's driving on 275, which is not fun. But one question I had for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, go ahead. Oh, all right. One question
Go ahead.
One question I had for you was how often do you get red ear sliders? Because we've talked to a lot of people who mention, red ear sliders were the go-to turtle for so many years, and then people get them and they don't realize they turn into dinner plate sized turtles very quickly. So I'm just curious, how often you get red ear sliders.
I caught the red ear slider part.
Yeah.
How often do you get red ear sliders?
We get them pretty often. I actually started turning them away and just have them contact the FWC amnesty program. If they're smaller ones, I can tend to get them out of states, but the larger ones I have a hard time, and I don't have the different ponds to keep like the females separated from the females, or to even keep them separated from my personal ones. I'm always worried about diseases getting into my personal aquatic turtles.
What do you personally keep outside of the rescue?
I've got 6 sulcatas that are personally mine. 12 or 13 of the Chinese box turtles, the Flavo marginatas. I've got 6 peninsula cooters, 6 red bellies. I like that. 1 yellow belly, 2 pink bellies.
Last thing we heard was 2 pink bellies. Ooh. Frozen.
Oh.
She has quite the collection, Ed.
Yeah, I was wondering if she keeps them all separate or in troughs or in ponds. Because, dude, when I was a jack of all trades, that got tiring real quick, man. That's why I dialed in. I was like, dude, I'm just gonna work with 1 or 2 and be done with it.
And I haven't even updated you on all my changes, bro. But while we wait for her to reconnect, I was telling her that I had to take a turtle to the vet today. Basically, the turtle was floating in the water like this. It wouldn't swim. It looked really fat, like it was puffing out from all directions. So the vet's doing some blood work to see what it could be. But I'm like, bro.
I actually had an issue with one of my terrapins come out of brumation, and she was the smallest one. And she was basking a little bit, which shouldn't have been. But I had it covered. But I noticed when she was in the water, her front legs were kind of like just inside, and she was pedaling with her back legs. So I was like, oh man. So I took her out, and dude, her front legs were just like, there was no resistance. You know what I'm saying? Like, reuse.
Yeah.
So found out that she had like that leg paralysis. Just from viral infection. So I got her on antibiotics. She's made a long way. I'm orally feeding her in the mouth, and antibiotics and injections every 3 days, and she's definitely come a long way now. But
What kind of terrapin is this?
it was an ornate.
One of the two girls.
Yeah, but she was the smaller of the two, the sister. The other one's fine, but she didn't. This one was the one that took so long to grow, and she's kind of like the runt, So she didn't, she'll be ready for by the time next year will roll around. I think, definitely. But I think it was such a shock that
Yeah.
unlike a lot of my other ones that I had that had the size to back it up and be okay, she really didn't have that. So that's on me, but obviously I did everything I could to keep it as warm as I could, and I think I did a pretty dang good job. It was just a matter of it was still a shock, moving from Florida to Ohio, and and one of the worst winters in 10 years. Go figure.
No, with mine, it kind of came where it looked fat, so I'm pretty sure she's been battling whatever it was for a while, and she was pretty normal, but I'm assuming whatever it is that's bothering her was getting to her. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'll
You
find out tomorrow.
You still keeping a lot of yours outside, or are you kind of
So
half and half?
I'm kind of half and half right now. She was outside. So she had a lot of shell problems. It's actually the one you thought was blue, or you think is
Gotcha.
blue, that
Gotcha.
concentric.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of shell problems and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure she's been battling stuff throughout her life. So
Yeah, it's crazy that you don't realize, people, animals, it sneaks up on you. And luckily I've had to, and that's the thing that sucked, dude. Like, I'm glad we know who we know and, resources, because, I haven't still been able to get really that well established with a vet. Luckily I'm established with my own past ones that they're willing to help me out and stuff like that. But I think that's been the biggest issue, is because, that I can't get them in. Like, we all know, once a reptile, is showing signs of something, you better get them in ASAP, because, they've been dealing with that longer than you think.
right.
And most vets are like booked 2 to 3 weeks out. And I'm like, I can't, I'm not doing that. I can't risk that, So luckily, I've been able to, still get what I need in order to, help my animal, the best I can. So I've been learning pretty much my own vet stuff a lot more than not to say I want to, but it's actually, kind of building my confidence up, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Hey, one thing I'd say about the
You're
back.
good.
One thing I'd say, Ed, that I've learned is, or that I like about my vet specifically, is I happen to be in a college town, and we have a vet school here. One of the best vet schools in Florida. I think it's the only one. I don't know. And so they have animal hospitals and whatnot. But my vet is a mobile vet, and she has an office. So if I ever get in a situation where I need a house call, because I'm already, have that relationship, she can do house calls as well. And so I really like that. Like, she doesn't charge extra for house calls. That's just part of her business. And so, like, whenever I have a turtle that she needs to see, she doesn't do like office visits for the turtles. She has me drop the turtle off, and in between the dogs that she sees or the cats or whatever, then she'll see my turtle and she'll update me. And so, like, I dropped the turtle off at 9 this morning and picked it up about 4, but she was able to do what she needed to do in between the visits, and I'm not sitting there all day. So I really like that aspect of my vet.
Yeah, I think almost it almost seems like with the exotic vets that, I'm hoping with more people that get involved with it, even though, I know it's a harder field and less money and all that good stuff, because a lot of people are willing, I feel like, to spend less money when it comes to reptiles, but more on when they're dogs and cats. That's encouraging, that it's mobile and people are using their brain and getting, taking the initiative and getting outside the box. And I'm sure, how do your guys rescue and stuff?
We have certain vets that we work with. Most of them are in the Orlando area, So we do, because we're a nonprofit, they do, give us a little bit of a discount versus just, somebody else walking in with something. A lot of times too,
Now,
because it's like a native wildlife.
Now, do you guys, unless it's like a very serious case, you're pretty much probably obligated, I'm sure, once an animal comes in to get it a first lookup over. But if it's things that you can do almost kind of like yourself, does your vet, allow you to just, whether it's simple injections or, oral mouth things or whatever it is that they, that you're capable of, you guys man all that stuff as well?
Yeah. Yep. So there's a lot of stuff Amanda does, a lot of stuff. I actually just sent her 2 sulcatas over. One, the plastron basically fell off the bottom of it, which I had no idea that was even a thing. So she's having fun with that. And then another sulcata, I don't know, it almost was like the people were feeding him sand, because he's doing nothing but pooping like mud sand. And he actually pooped from the first time a couple days ago, and I got him on February 20th. And it was just like a complete mud pile. So she's given enemas for him to make sure he's staying clean, extra hydration. She knows how to syringe, like water syringe without the tortoise aspirating. So she's doing a lot of that.
And you're talking about a hardy animal. Like,
I know.
Like, how on earth, and I feel like, with everything happening, now with USARC and a lot of things that, things are changing, and it's a shame because, I feel like, a lot of things can be prevented if we had more of an educational based, knowing like, hey, look, I'm not I don't want to say I'm not for laws. I'm for the educational thing of like, hey, look, before you get any animal, like especially like a couple like me and Cody, we know some breeders, and the way we do business or relationship building is that we want to make sure that you are capable of caring for that animal above all else. If you've ever had anything like that before or raised anything before, I feel like that could be that's the key element right there. So how do your guys' process as far as even rehoming? Do you go, obviously I'm sure you go to that extent of like, hey, look, you know what you're getting in for. Do you have the capabilities? Do you have the means? Do you have, X, Y, Z before, you allow that animal to get into a different situation?
Yeah. Yep. So we ask all those questions. A lot of the adopters, they'll even do a lot of research. Like once they know what they're going to be adopting from me, I give them a week up to 2 weeks. If they don't have an enclosure ready, I'll give them up to 2 weeks for them to put an enclosure together. Send me the pictures. I can be like, oh, you need to fix this side of the fence, or that looks good, or add this to the house. And then once, they're ready, they adopt, and they'll be like, oh, I did research. Is this good to feed them? No, that's not good to feed them. You want to stay, with this such of a list. And I actually have some care sheets that I put together, and I'll email them over to the adopters.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's what I was wondering, because
a lot of the ones that get surrendered, they don't get the information from the pet stores, or a friend gave it to them. And, 10 years ago, okay, I can understand. Yeah, maybe you messed it up because, the internet wasn't as great, or 15 years ago. But in this day and age, there's so many, research it out. There's so many forum boards. Well, actually, I don't know. Are forums still a thing? Maybe I'm old now. There's Facebook pages, that you can go to and ask questions. There's so much information on the internet.
Yeah, and you guys also make sure that, I'll have to check out your website and everything, but you guys make sure that your website is also a channel and a funnel for information, that they can always access, or like how do you or do you just rely on the more the personal one-on-one working with?
Yeah, more just the personal one-on-one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't really have, like a lot of time to keep up our website.
Yeah. Now, do you try to stay as natural, like, with a lot of greens and natural stuff, or do you guys use pellets as well? or try to, Missouri or whatever you might have it when it comes to feeding in your animals? Like what's your pretty much your main go-to, whether it's tortoises or aquatics, or I know you're staying away from aquatics, but just in general, like what's your main go-to feed?
Yep. So we do a lot, a lot of veggies. There's, we'll cut the grass, throw the clippings in. Well, actually, all of our enclosures have, grass in it, fortunately. But I plant stuff, mulberries, so they drop the leaves. The tortoise eats, the mulberry leaves. I've got cactuses growing in there. It's harder with some of the sulcatas because they'll eat the cactus down like a beaver. The times that we do use like Missouri or fruits is if we've got to get medication, oral medication into a tortoise, or like the sand, the one that's really impacted with sand. We were giving him a lot of Missouri because that really makes the poop loose. And the same with the water turtles. We'll, maybe inject, they go to get a bite of strawberry and then, we'll squirt a little bit in their mouth. And the box turtles are the same. We'll inject it like either into worms or, like Missouri is a good thing, or we'll make like a banana mash with Missouri.
Nice. So you try to get as creative as you can.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask was, did you still want to show your pictures?
If you want, if you think we have time, I think there's how many? I didn't know if there was like a time limit on here. I think there's like 40 pictures.
All right.
It'll
Well,
go fairly.
We can go through a couple.
Yeah. We got about 9 minutes left.
Okay. I think we could do it in 9 minutes. All right. I'm ready.
The other little thing isn't added. However you did it earlier. All right, here we go. Boom.
Alrighty.
So that's my email address. So if anybody is interested in adopting or may have a surrender, that's my email address. That's the easiest way, to get in contact with me.
She's way ahead of you, Cody, man. You didn't even have to ask.
There we go.
So that is my male sulcata. He's what started all of this 21 years ago. I got him and met a few people and met Amanda, and now I collaborate with her and running the rescue.
So is that a recent picture, or was that back in his glory days?
Yeah, I think he was probably about maybe 50 pounds there. Now he's more like 90 and still tries to climb in your lap at 90 pounds. So that's fun trying to push him out of my lap. Yeah.
That's a face for you, man. That's almost like you can make a meme out of that.
I know. That is our enclosure. If you see, this is a car right here. For scale. This main thing right here is our tortoise enclosure. It is 100 feet by 200 feet. And I can block it off. If I get larger sulcatas, I can block it off so they're not with my personal ones. And then the front two are mostly my rehab enclosures.
Oh, wow. So that is a fence all the way around it regardless. So it's just shrubbery around it.
Yeah. So it's hardwire cloth. I think half inch hardwire cloth. It goes 18 inches into the ground.
Oh, wow.
And we're lucky enough, like our property's got a lot of sawgrass on it. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like a thick, sharp grass. And it actually grew all around the perimeter of my fence too. So my sulcatas don't see through it. So they don't actually try to go through it at all. They're contained.
Yeah, that's perfect. Now, just seeing this, because, obviously, we all have to deal with it, at least us in Florida that we know of, being in Florida, living there. How do you prepare for hurricanes and whatnot?
If we have to evacuate, then they all get loaded up in totes and they come with me. If it's just like your normal, rain, they stay outside. There's there's a house in there that they can go in. And then we also did a man-made tunnel using 36-inch culvert pieces, and they can go into the culvert pieces. Don't have to worry about burrows collapsing. They don't dig anymore, knock on wood.
Huh. That's cool. Interesting.
So some of the box turtles that I rescued as COVID started the beginning of May of last year, there was 6 box turtles, and this is what they lived in. It was 8 inches wide by 13 inches long.
Huh.
So that was just my hand for reference to show kind of how small they were. And
Wow.
for whatever reason, each box turtle had a piece of paper, a towel, a potato, and yeah. So I don't know why they need those things.
I was under the impression box turtles couldn't eat potatoes.
Right. Well, it's a whole potato too, so they're definitely not going to eat that. It was
Right.
raw. I don't know what the towel was used for, and
Dampness.
To dry off after their bath.
I guess, and maybe to write a note to somebody, they needed the piece of paper.
Huh.
So,
Wow.
those 6 box turtles, they all had really overgrown nails and beaks. So I'm not too familiar yet with like the beak trimmings, and because they were really bad, they, my partner or the other rescue that we collaborate with, Swamp Girl Adventures, she took all 6, got them all trimmed up for me, and then they came back to me, and then I adopted them all out.
Wow.
So, and these 6 box turtles lived in an RV and traveled around the U.S.
They look like Eastern box turtles.
Yep, they were Eastern box turtles.
Wow.
So that was pretty interesting enclosures.
Yeah, man.
This was a leopard tortoise that came in. I just was feeding her a lot of Missouri. That was her main staple, Missouri. And I don't remember what the other, I think trout chow was the other thing that they were feeding her too. So she was severely deformed, round.
It looks like she wasn't getting proper lighting either.
Yeah, a lot of MVD. So the person that has adopted her was going to make her slowly transition, because there are species that, you know, if they're housed inside, they have to be transitioned outside. So I hadn't talked to the person in a while, but she was doing pretty good the last time that I knew.
Yeah, because I got one, and I just got 2 babies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, seeing the difference compared to mine and the top of the shell, and
Yeah, yep, it's pretty bad. This is a sulcata Rolly that I got in from somebody, and Rolly, I kind of feel like he at first was a fail for me. I thought I had found a great home for him in St. Pete area. Person adopted him. 2 weeks later, a friend of mine went into a pet store and called me right there on the spot and said, Rolly's in the pet store. I'm like, what do you mean he's in the pet store? He's like, he's in this enclosure in the pet store. What do you want me to do? I called the pet store right away to find out what had happened. Well, Rolly's owner got him from me. So my rescue doesn't charge adoption fees. I'd rather you put your money into the enclosure than me say, oh, it's $150 to adopt or $100 to adopt. We just ask, you know, if you want to give a donation at the time of pickup, that's great, but it's not required. So Rolly's owner sold him to the pet store for $200. I had to pay the pet store $100 to get him back, even though I had the paperwork saying that, you know, he was from my rescue. So I actually called FWC. FWC actually investigated the pet store from buying a sulcata from somebody that did not have a class 3 permit. Find them, which that was not my intent. My intent was to get the owner or, you know, my adopter in trouble. So FWC knocked on the adopter's door and talked to him too, and told him that wasn't right. I don't know if he ever fined him. I don't think he fined him, but he had, good talking with him. So my friend left the pet store with Rolly, and then Rolly stayed with me for about 8 months until I could come to terms to adopt him out again. So he got adopted out. He was one of my favorites. Occasionally I get one where I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have, let him go. So now I'm like, no, Kim, don't contact the adopter.
And see, that's a shame, the people that have the wrong motive for it, they should definitely, have serious repercussions when it's that obvious, as opposed to, I don't know, sometimes, on other scenarios where it's like people, get the brunt end of it when they're trying to do the right thing or something,
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
Right, so 2 weeks later.
It hit me very hard. That was one of the first times that I've ever had something like that happen. And I think that's why I held on to him for a little longer than I normally do, because I felt like I failed him. So.
All right, let's do 3 more pictures.
Okay. So here was another sulcata that we got in. She was very soft at that size, just, bad MBD. And we just, the new person adopted her out and, put her out. But one more, sorry. Occasionally we do get good, good looking sulcatas in. Just this one ended up getting too big, and the owners couldn't. That's another thing too. They get too big.
yeah.
The owners couldn't handle him anymore. He was still kind of small to me.
That's what happens.
Yeah, he was like 15 pounds.
That's what happens when, you like, oh, you see this for, $200, then you see $40 for, a tortoise, and next thing you know, a year or 2 years later.
Yeah.
And that's honestly my biggest frustration with reptile shows is how cheap sulcata sell for. And 90% of people do not tell the people that's like, look at this cute tortoise, that thing is going to be a monster.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just whipping through. I just realized I was getting into some of my rescue stuff now. But yeah, that was one of the 40 box turtles that came in with a bunch of shell fungus all over her. So we dremeled the shell, rubbed the antifungal cream on her, and then got her. That's how she looked. And then we adopted her out.
Oh, wow.
So you want to find the... Oh, and that's the one where the plastron was that fell off?
Oh, wow, yeah. Man.
Yeah. It was all lifted. I'm thinking maybe they kept it too wet. I'm not really sure what would make the plastron fall off. That white stuff that you see is actually her bone.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
That's after, we had to cut her scoots off because they were loose and snagging on stuff. And then that was remember how I was saying the guys were pooping mud? That was their mud poop.
Wow.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
Yeah,
Go to the
literally,
slide.
yeah, it looks exactly what you walk on.
Yep. So we can do another one of these shows later on if you want, with more of that was a box turtle that got hit by a car that we adopted out.
Oh, man.
That's it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
No, and sometimes people don't get a perspective on, how bad, some of the stuff is and can be. And honestly, as hard as it might be to see some of that stuff, I think, we need to be able to be as real and raw, as we can to be able to this stuff exists and look how bad it can get, because obviously it doesn't take any kind of person to be in a reptile enthusiast, hobbyist, or whatever to know that that's not right. At least, looking, and so no, I'm glad, I'm encouraged to know that you guys, are down there, and, there's, the more I hear about more sanctuaries and, rescues and stuff like that, the more I'm encouraged, because I think we need more of that, because they're so limited, and, we're so, outnumbered as far as people you know, in numbers, there's not enough of the, you know, rescues to go around with how many demand of animals that need, you know,
Yeah.
homes, you know, at least the right homes. So, you know, you guys definitely got to be encouraged, because I know when you're talking about rescues and all that stuff and how much you guys rely on donations and this and that, and you guys are mainly doing it on your own. So I definitely commend you guys, because,
Yeah.
you know, it's not easy, especially
No.
on top of your own animals.
Right. And the one more thing, you know, too, that I wanted to mention is we are actually doing a big fundraiser to help raise some donations for our rescue. We're doing an online auction. So from now till April 23rd, we're requesting to see if anybody has anything that they want to donate to the auction. It doesn't have to necessarily be turtle and tortoise related. I actually have BarkBox. They donated a 1-month subscription. ZooMed donated a bunch of stuff. Reptiles Magazine donated. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to donate, you know, please reach out to me. And then the auction is going to run April 24th through May 1st for a full week. And there's instructions like on our Facebook page about that.
Sweet.
Awesome. Now we can just find that through your website.
On our Facebook.
Okay. Perfect.
You can find on Facebook, look under Central Florida Wildlife Center. And we've already
Perfect.
started it's 2021 spring auction is our album up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I've seen it on Facebook already. I'll have to send it to you, Ed, if
Include
you
that.
don't.
Yeah, and then we can include that, since, you know, if this can be since it's a pre-recording, we can post that with, you know, with your bio and stuff like that. That way, you know, we can definitely push it for you guys, because we're all about making sure that, you know, where it matters, and we make sure that, you know, we implement it.
Hey,
Okay.
we try to use what little bit of voice we have for a purpose, man.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
without that, I mean, if there's no purpose behind it, then, you know, it's you know, it's a waste in my eyes, you know. So we're here to make a difference, you know, give a voice to, you know, people that, you know, and animals, you know, that they need it the most, you know. So, you know, we appreciate your time.
No, for sure,
Thank you.
for sure. You mentioned earlier, you know, we can do another one at another time, and we'd definitely be interested in doing one more in depth on, you know, certain topics that you may, you know, feel like you have a little bit more mastery in. And so, like I said, you know, this is a bio, getting to know you, getting to know, you know, your organization and whatnot. And I just wanted to say thank you. We appreciate having you on tonight. Yeah,
Thank you.
def-
This was fun.
no, for sure, for sure. Ed, you got anything else you want to say before we wrap it up, man?
No, it's just encouraging, you know. So, like, you know, like you said, you know, I think, you know, we've had almost lately more people doing your kind of field work and rescues than, you know, than anything else. And I'd rather hear this all day than, you know, anything else, because, you know, I know that it's actually serving a purpose. So, you know, keep on keeping on, definitely, you know, keep.
Thank you. Yep. Sometimes it's a struggle and you're like, oh man.
No, it is, you know, because I know, you know, you're not even dealing with your own animals, but, you know, so many other animals and in top of people. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
in bad scenarios. So it's, you know, you're dealing with a lot of negatives, you know, so definitely be encouraged that, you know, you are the positive in the matter. And, you know, that's enough.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
So,
All right, guys, we appreciate you guys for tuning in, watching another episode. Until next time, we're excited to continue providing content for you guys to watch and enjoy. Make sure you visit Kim and Turtle Rescue USA, support the cause. And as always, we'll see you next time. This has been another episode of What the
Shell Podcast.
Podcast. All right. Y'all have
Good
a good
night,
evening.
guys.
Bye.